we haven't looked at those new severe thunderstorm warnings yet that are on the North Shore. This includes Bogalusa. These are the ones that were issued for that squall line, the leading edge of it now.
Yeah, there you go. You're on cam.
There we go. So these have been continued from the ones that were more to the west. So most of the Tangipahoa Parish severe thunderstorm warnings have now been canceled, and now we're just seeing those expanded into Washington and St. Tammany Parish. But you'll notice that the wind criteria on these has been going down. The original warnings we were watching out toward Baton Rouge, this was 80-mile-per-hour winds. This latest warning that includes Washington and Pearl River County, this is now 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts, which is still that severe criteria. It's still damaging winds, but it's good news that this is kind of getting rained out. It's making the wind threat a little bit diminished, but we're still going to closely watch this. You can see on velocity, looking at the winds here, if we can try to query these, it is definitely less than what we were seeing earlier. Right now we're seeing those radar indicated 40, 50-mile-per-hour winds, and this is looking a lot better than we were getting those 80-mile-per-hour wind gusts. So this is a severe thunderstorm warning for Washington Parish and Pearl River County. This will expire at 10:15, and then the one to the south, this includes St. Tammany and Hancock County. This is going to be in effect until 10:45, and this is again for that leading edge of the squall line coming through. But we also have been talking about that flooding threat, and the concern here is once that squall line pushes past for the North Shore, you can see we're not really seeing a lot of movement for these storms down to the south, because this is the driving factor. The upper level low that's driving all these storms is still well to the west of us. So we don't have any motion in the upper levels that's going to move these storms out quickly. This has played out similarly over the past 2 or so days to the north of us. We've had multiple flooding issues. So when you get these squall lines coming through, that actually moves all of that rainfall out fast for those areas that are seeing the wind gusts pushing by. But where we're seeing this boundary kind of stalled out over the river parishes right now and to the west of us, that's where we're going to see those huge flooding issues. And it does look like we have another flash flood warning for the far western parts of the river parishes. This is now in effect until 10 a.m. This is those same areas that we've seen 6 to 7 inches of rainfall indicated on the radar. So let's look at that again. This is the 6-hour rain total estimate here from our radar. And these areas in purple, that's 6 to 7 inches in some areas. We're getting almost 8 inches of radar indicated rain in some places. So you really want to make sure that you are paying close attention to these flash flood warnings. And the reason that they upgraded this tag to considerable for these is so that alert will go off on your phone, so that you know that this is an ongoing threat in those areas. And if you're traveling in that direction on I-10, I would not drive through the river parishes right now. We might see significant ponding water on the interstate in that direction up toward Baton Rouge, and with 6 to 8 inches of rainfall in some areas, you do not want to be driving. We've seen multiple cars flipped over on the roadways from Amber's shot earlier. That was for the North Shore, but we're going to see similar conditions with those conditions on the interstate. So that's the flash flood warnings that we're watching over to the west. But we also have that flash flood warning in effect for the city, and it looks like we're starting to see maybe some more rainfall starting to pop up there. And that's what we want to watch for, is the training effect. It does look like it's just a quick little downpour, so that's good news. We're not seeing any heavy rainfall rebuilding, but down to the southwest, where you're seeing this very slow moving boundary slowly moving over to the east. We just are not having a fast motion here. This is going to bring in more rainfall as we go throughout the next couple of hours, and that's going to expand that flash flood threat. So let's take one more look at the North Shore, because this is where I'd say we're seeing the most dangerous of the weather with those winds. And we also are still watching that little area of rotation that kind of traveled right up I-10. You might have even seen the rotating wall cloud maybe here, because this is, I'll point that out for you. You can actually see the reds and the greens kind of going up here. Now the rotation is diminishing, but that's what we were watching closely for, that water spout threat. Looks like it's right over Slidell right now, and you're going to see some high winds with that especially. So watching closely for that.
the National Weather Service did mention that other area behind where your hand is.
Yes.
That is the one that they're saying it's becoming right moving, and so there's likely a waterspout signature there. They're not going to issue a tornado warning yet, but they could do so as that gets closer to the southeastern St. Tammany.
Yeah, and that's what we've been talking about with this line. This is the front edge of those winds that are coming across the lake right now, just went over the causeway. You can see this notch. It's not rotation like we're kind of seeing over here towards Slidell, which is a broad rotation. You're just seeing this little notch in those high winds. That's typically where we can see those waterspouts form, and then a waterspout heading onto land obviously then becomes a tornado. So we'll very closely watch that area of winds. It does look like Zach is querying those wind values here. We're still seeing up to 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts, 50 to 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts over the lake right now. And those winds will speed up over water because there's less resistance than what we see on land. So really gusty winds coming in over the causeway. And it's interesting because this is kind of behind what is its own cell ahead of this main squall line of storms. And you can really see it on reflectivity. It's not part of this main line. That's the line of storms coming through, but we have this clump of rainfall that's slowly moving ahead of it. As these boundaries collide, sometimes you can see a spin to the atmosphere that can cause a waterspout or a tornado. So we really want to watch closely this area where we have these converging or coming together boundaries. That's where we can see that spin up. Zach?
And I do want to point out right there, that shot right there, you see the velocity as it goes away from the radar.